Hello, hello. Welcome to Power Fridays Live. I'm your host, Janelle Pulley, and I'm super excited to have with me author Jamaal Wesley joining us tonight for Power Fridays Live. And just to let you know a little bit about us, we're very excited to have you as a guest today. Jamaal, how are you doing this evening?
I am awesome. Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, great. Well, I do thank you so much for being on Power Fridays tonight as a fellow author. I know kudos. It's very important for us to share our book and our story with everyone. So I'm looking forward to learning more about you. So can you just give the audience a little bit of background and how you grew up and how you arrived at becoming an author?
Wow. My name is Jamaal Wesley, and I am from a small map dot in Louisiana called Dubberly. And most people have never heard of Dubberly, but Dubberly is about 30 minutes east of Shreveport and 30 minutes west of Grambling State University. And so I grew up there. I went to college in South Louisiana in Lafayette, Louisiana, where I majored in business management and have a minor in HR. And as soon as I graduated, I started a career in the world of insurance. So I worked in insurance claims, particularly in residential and large commercial and catastrophic stricken areas. So where there were hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, I would go to those areas and handle claims. And so, you know, I've been an entrepreneur for the last probably 10 years. In the world of insurance, I got bored being in corporate America, hated it. So I started my own business, got my own contracts, and I loved it. And it gave me a life where I could work about 5 months per year and travel the rest or do what I wanted to in my leisure. And so, that's a little bit about me. So, Janelle, you want me to tell how I got to be an author and all that good old stuff right now?
Well, yeah, well, we can get to that because I want to know how you can work 5 months out of a year and then have the rest of the year because there's 12 months in a year and just do your own thing. And I know you've been to several countries, so and you've been to some places lately. So how does that work for the entrepreneurs out there and someone, wanting to understand in the world of entrepreneurship? We're sold on you can have freedom. And it sounds like you found that freedom when you started your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, in 2013, I was working for a company that was in New Jersey, and that company laid me off 2 days before my birthday.
Oh no.
And what I could see in that moment was like I went to the store and I bought a half a gallon of Bluebell ice cream and a socket to me cake, and that's all I ate for 2 days.
Oh.
And what happened was I had a friend of mine who was my coach at the time. And at the beginning of that year, this was in April, but at the beginning of that year, he had me write out what I wanted my career and my life to look like. And
Mhm.
so on that third day, I was had a meeting with him, and I said, I don't feel like coming to our meeting. I was a little down and depressed or whatever. And he said, no, I don't care how you feel. You're coming to this meeting. So I was like, okay.
Way to
So,
coach.
right. So I show up at this meeting and he has me, I tell him what was going on with my job being laid off. And he says, okay, read what you wrote at the beginning of the year in the section of career. And I knew I wanted to start my own business, but I was comfortable in corporate America. I was making a lot of money. I was flying from here to New Jersey, every couple of weeks. And when I read it, I was like, I don't understand why you want me to read this. And
Mm,
he's like, read it again. And I read it. And he said, notice your job wasn't in it. And in that
wow.
moment, I began to get responsible for creating my life without that job. Now, Janelle, I went back to that very same company. They gave me my biggest contract. And being a contract worker, instead of someone who worked directly for them, I made 3 to 4 times as much money in a shorter period of time.
Ah.
And that's how I was able to work 4 to 5 months out of a year
Mm-hmm.
and not work the rest of it.
Oh, great. Well, that's exciting to hear what looked like a challenge in your life. It got turned around in just a split second through having a conversation and actually through your heart and mind and your pen. getting connected with a piece of paper to say, "Hey, this is what I want, and this is what I so desire." So, if any, that's very powerful that you share that part of your story and part of your life's journey, and that's how it was possible.
Yeah, I think the most important part of that, Janelle, is, the great thing about having that coach is he had me focus on what I was committed to versus the loss of something that I thought I wanted.
Yes.
And, oftentimes me included, we focus on what we think we're losing versus, well, what do I actually want? And then
Yes.
start putting time and attention into that. And so, a little bit more about that story is I was actually present to when I got laid off and when he said what he said. My grandmother had passed away in that March, right before my birthday. And when I called the office to say, hey, I need to fly to Houston, my grandmother passed away, they were like, oh, we're sorry to hear that. And what's the condition of your files? What do we got to do? Like, my brain wasn't even caring about my files. I needed to get to my family, right?
Right.
My thought process was, I don't want to work here anymore. And there are several vacations that I wanted to take that year. And I was like, I'm not going to have enough vacation time to take all of these vacations. Well, wish granted, I was laid off. And I got to go on all vacations, and it did turn into something miraculous. And so, you know, I was talking to a friend just about 2 months ago, and I said, God wants to give us the desires of our heart, right? Like that's Bible. And I said, you know, but something is missing from that statement. And she
Mm,
was like, well, what's missing? I said, if we'll let him. God is always wanting to give, I say, God is always wanting to give us the desires of our heart if
yes.
we'll let him. And we throw monkey wrenches in that and, all kinds of things when God is trying to hand us something new and beautiful. But because it doesn't look like we think it should, we reject it. So in that moment, and in another moment that I'll tell you about in a few seconds, it was really allowing God to be good to me.
Oh, yes. That sounds wonderful. It sounds great. And knowing that it came 2 days before your birthday, that was kind of like a present that you didn't expect to get, that you would get your life out of that experience.
Exactly.
So that is so great to hear. And I know, in your book, you talk about your authentic journey. And this is part of your journey.
Yes.
And so can you tell us a little bit about that and how, now you have the courage, you have the desire, and you've written down what you desired, and you've mapped out your life and how you want to see your life happen and making that connection. Can you let us, and I know having that coach was really good. So can you tell us a little bit about why did you have a coach in the first place?
So in that moment, and that was 10 years ago in 2013. So I had a coach because oftentimes a coach can see things that I can't see. So, like, even in that moment, he could see something that I couldn't because
Mhm.
he wasn't emotionally attached to anything about the situation. He was able to stand for me inside of my commitment in the moments that I couldn't even see my commitment.
Right.
And that's the magic of having someone who is a coach and standing for who we are and what we're out to accomplish in life, right? I talk about the book is called Authentically Authentic. It's a journey, not a destination. And I say that because we evolve into our authentic selves, right? We were born our authentic selves, and then this thing called life happens. Interactions with other human beings happen.
Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Exactly. So, and when this thing called life happens, it has us cover up who we are authentically in an effort to protect ourselves, right? And so this book is about how to rediscover who you authentically are.
Mhm.
And it's not a telling, it's more of an inquiry where we begin to on a journey through my own life experiences to help people begin to look at their own life to see where life has happened and they begin to to cover up, and they begin to discover who they really are and who they really want to be, as if that pain or that trauma never happened. Um, and it's very interesting. So, this book never what it was supposed to happen, and it wasn't, right? Like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that I wanted to write this book.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I can tell you a little bit about how this all came to be. And it goes back into that world of looking for the light and the darkness for
Oh,
me.
wow.
And I tell this story in the book. Um, just like in that moment I was laid off. So in 2020, when COVID was happening, I would come in this very office, look at this very screen, and I was bored. It was July. I'll never forget it. And I would come in here and look at my screen like this.
Mm.
Now, you need to know, in the world of insurance, I'm sought after and in demand, and I'm paid a lot of money to do what I do. And I was thinking, how many times can I write the same report? Like, everything started to look the same. So I took the last 2 weeks of July off of 2020, and I just was resolute. I said, you know what? I complete. I'm done. I'm done in the world of insurance. So that same company out of New Jersey, I called them and I said, September 1st, I'm done. My contract is complete. And they're like, really? They're like, will you do some consulting for us? I was like, I'll take it on a case by case basis, but basically I'm done. Right.
Yes.
So I wrapped up everything I was responsible for September 1st. September 8th, I walk in the doctor's office and he says, you have a cancerous mass at the base of your skull the size of a tangerine. I need you to see a specialist immediately. It looks cancerous and you have to have surgery. Life goes into a tailspin.
Wow.
Um, the moment I hear the word cancer, my brain, I break down in this doctor's office. There's no one there to support me, because at that time, if you couldn't bring anyone to the doctor's office with you.
Right. Oh my goodness.
And this man, through my tears, begins to stick what seemed like a 2 foot long camera up my nose to try to look at this thing. And he's digging in my face through the tears. And when I get in my car, I just fall apart. And I ended up having brain surgery October 1st of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And turned out not to be cancer.
Praise God for that.
So I had brain
Praise
surgery
God.
the first time, between eighth and ninth grade when I was 14 years old. So I had a mass removed that was wrapped around my left optic nerve,
Oh,
and that same mass grew back. But I didn't find out that I didn't have cancer until 2 weeks after the surgery was complete. And mind you, they left 40% of this mass in my face.
oh,
And if it had been cancer, I would have had to go back into surgery another 6, 7 hours to remove that other 40%, and then go right into chemo and whatever therapies that we do. So now I'm going to back up a little bit, and I want to talk about the power of yes. And I talked about how God tries to, give us things, and he tries to set our lives on different paths, but it's up to us to say yes, even in the world of unknowing. So
yes.
I'm going to rewind back to 2019. So this client of mine called me and they said, hey, we know you don't normally handle jewelry claims, but can you handle this jewelry claim? This lady chipped her $70,000 diamond ring and the setting is broken and whatever. So I live here in Atlanta. And so I said, okay, yes, I'll figure it out. And it was almost like they were trying to talk me out of it. They were saying, hey, we know you don't normally handle it. Don't feel pressure. You don't have to. We'll find someone. And I was like, look, I'll handle
Mhm.
it. Right. So that was the first yes.
Yes.
So I meet this jeweler over in Buckhead, Georgia, and we become friends. So there was this ring that I wanted for my wedding ring. Now I'm single, I'm not married. So there was this diamond ring that I wanted. And so I said, hey, can you make this diamond ring for me for Christmas of 2019? He said, sure. And I'll make it for you at wholesale rate. I'm a wholesaler.
Oh, great.
So That's the other thing I want to say about this story is oftentimes we put off what we want for some
Mm.
future something happening rather than experiencing the life we want right now. So being a yes and having my diamonds now, right? So I had this diamond ring made for me for Christmas of 2019. Well, once I get the ring was a little thinner than I wanted. The diamonds were a little smaller and it looked a little bit more feminine. But no worries. I was like, I'll make changes to the ring one day. So as I'm in surgery, I fly my best friend in from Louisiana. She to take care of me.
Mhm.
So obviously, while I'm in surgery, she's in my jewelry box,
Wow.
and this ring fits her perfectly.
Oh.
And she says, "I want one just like it." I said, "Well, why don't you buy that one, and then I'll, because there's some tweaks I want to make to the design anyway."
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
she's like, sure. She cut me a check, gave her the ring. Great, she's happy. So I go see my jeweler friend in December of 2020 to make the redesigned ring. And he asked me a question. He said, Jamal, have you ever thought about starting your own jewelry company?
Oh.
And I said, nope. He's like, well, consider you've sold your first piece. I was like, okay. And he's like, look at the profit margin if you had sold it at retail instead of wholesale. I said, okay, that's a cute coin.
Mhm.
And then my brain immediately took me back to the moment when I thought I had cancer and I thought I was dying. And I was like, there's not a building with my name on it. There's not a street with my name on it. When I die, what's going to be my legacy in the world?
Oh.
Yes, I've made a profound difference in people's lives, but that memory will die with them. And then I said, wow, I want to be a part of people's love stories. And in that 10-minute conversation, my jewelry company was started. I immediately leave his office. I get in my truck. I start calling my friends. I'm starting a jewelry company. I'm starting a jewelry company. And they were like, okay. Before I knew it, people started making orders, and I hadn't even started an actual company yet.
You didn't have a company name or anything the first,
Nothing.
but you picked up the phone and you got in communication.
I did. And people start to make orders. And so I rushed to the Secretary of State's office, started the company, started, business services, merchant services, all that stuff. And I started taking custom orders. Now, how the book came to be is so when I said I wanted to be a part of people's love stories, my marketing strategist was like, well, Jamal, you need to write a book. You need to tell your story. And my first thought was, girl, I can write a pamphlet. I can't write a book, right? Like
Right.
looking at the limits of my own thinking. And then
Limiting beliefs.
yeah, but when I started writing, it was as if God was speaking through me. And this book called Authentically Authentic, It's a Journey, Not a Destination, just came out of me. And I just began to tell my story. And the interesting thing about this is, to this day, like people who have been the closest to me, they're like, Jamal, we didn't know all of these things about your life. It's
Mhm.
great to get to know you on a deeper level. It's great to know you, your thoughts on spirituality and religion and, my whole coming out story and just all of these things. People, they didn't know because I'm really good at listening to Janelle and, like being there for you. But when it comes to talking about me, I don't. So it's
Yeah.
really great to be known and have my story be told as it empowers other people. That's the main important thing. It's not just to tell my story, but
Right.
it's to tell my story and my testimony so that other people can be empowered in the living of their life authentically.
Yes, so that's what we definitely are all about. And of course, someone asked if they can get a connect to the jeweler. So, do you still have your jewelry company going on? Is that still active with you?
I do. You can find us for right now at onelovejewelry.com. So we're taking custom orders. We ran into a trademark snag. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important to do your trademarking. And so the business name is changing, but you can always find us at onelovejewelry.com. And you can find us at a Harry means I love you on IG. So a Harry is AHERI, means with an S, I love you on Instagram. And you can follow us there. And so many amazing things are going to be happening in the next month. And so our IG page is going to be flooded with our new line, which will be launched in about 1 month. And, the people that have seen our pieces, they're very excited. They love them. And I can't wait to share them with you.
Very great, very great. Oh, wow, that is so amazing. That is really great. And so, did I spell that correctly?
Yes, a Harry means I love. Perfect.
Okay, well, that is the IG. So then that is your Jewelry Connect, my friend, who is in the audience listening. So we're going to make sure that this continues. And, because, Power Fridays Live, we are a broadcast with a vision of impacting the world through sharing transformation, spiritual growth, and leadership for business entrepreneurs. And of course, getting your story out there to the world so that this power that you possess, Jamal, it has a positive effect on people, and then of course that person is going to be in action and buying their jewelry, hopefully, and then of course that is onelovejewelry.com. So we have that, and we'll share that, and we'll definitely share that. So I'll leave that up for now, but I mean, like, being an entrepreneur, learning that you have your business, you have to set it up correctly, and knowing that you have this business and you set it up, and now you have a challenge where it's like, oh, trademark was important. You need it. So that's very good advice that you're sharing with entrepreneurs this evening. So please do, follow Jamal's advice, because he's a businessman for many years and he definitely knows what to do and how to do it. So I'm sure we can, speak to you about that too as well if need be.
For
And
sure.
with your consultant hat on.
In this trademark snag, the crazy thing is we submitted for our trademark 2 weeks before we did. Someone submitted theirs. So do
Oh,
not delay. It's not like we didn't submit our trademark documentation. We did in 2 weeks, people. So don't delay. And something that a friend of mine told me, and I don't know how true this is, but I can see it happening, is that there are companies out there buying people's business names and having them, because they don't trademark them, and then having them buy them back from them
oh
after
wow.
they've trademarked them. So don't look over it. Don't think that it's not important. Please, please, please trademark your ideas so no one can take them from you. It ranges from $250 to $1,000. You can actually do it yourself, but get it done. It's important.
Oh, thank you so much for that advice. We always like to provide advice to everyone. So please do, take Jamal's advice with that, and so therefore they're like the wholesale jewelers. So are you considered a wholesale jeweler?
No, we are a retailer.
Okay.
My friend that supplies my jewelry is a wholesaler.
Okay. Okay. Basically, you have the connect.
Call me.
Oh, very great, very great. Well, I love the authenticity, because it sounds like even with ourselves and I could hear the self love come out of your story, and how you really took on loving yourself. You said, "Hey, I'm I'm done," because you took time for yourself. And I know for myself, like, I'm not sure if many other people are like me, but you don't think about doing that. You think about serving others, being there for others, like you said, mentioned earlier, listening to people, and then, not really sharing so much about yourself. And so when you take that time, then how is that for you when you know that that's important to take that time?
Wow. The book talks about the moment we stop living inside of our default ways of being and at the effect of our past based world and living is the moment like so much freedom to be in the world just existed, right? Like I tell that there's an amazing story that I tell about my dad in the story, and we talk about forgiveness and authenticity. And
Mhm.
how I always heard this world of forgiveness is for you, right? It's not for the other person. And I really didn't get it,
Hmm.
right? Like I got it as a concept. But when I began to forgive people, what it did was it returned me to my authentic self.
Hmm.
Like, so when there is no forgiveness, or we withhold forgiveness from another, we aren't the person we were before the hurt happened. So that means I'm not my loving self, I'm not my giving self, or whatever that self is. I stopped being and I started being some other way to protect myself from whatever that situation was. But in the moment that I was able to forgive, it returned me to who I am and who I choose to be versus having that situation control who I am in the moments. And so there are two stories. One story is about my drug addicted dad and me forgiving him in the moment that compassion replaced judgment and cynicism and all that stuff. And then there's a story about a woman named Mary Ann. And Mary Ann was in a really bad car accident and it left her temporarily paralyzed.
Hmm.
And if you read Mary Ann's story, it is mind blowing as in the world of forgiveness. So when we are who we are authentically, we are free to be in this world in ways we've never imagined. And we're no longer confined by someone else's thoughts. We're actually beginning to live as we're committed to live versus based on someone else's commitments.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And and I learned the power of forgiveness, in my life, in my journey. And there's so much power in forgiveness. And so I'm so glad that you shared that and that you brought that forth in this conversation, because you're able to have that freedom when you are able to forgive those who have hurt you or wronged you, or where you perceive to be hurt or wronged in such a way. So thank you so much, for sharing the power of forgiveness. And that's in the Authentically Authentic. Authentically Authentic. And you have the arrow in the road. So what inspired you for the cover?
So, it just called to me. It was like, okay, this is it. Because, we played with so many different covers. And this one was just, oh, you're on a road somewhere. And we don't even know where that somewhere is.
Hmm.
It's just going somewhere. And along the way, you're going to discover who you are as long as you keep traveling. But the moment you stop, you're stuck. You're stuck with this way of being. So, it was just beautiful when this whole cover came up, and it was just like, that's exactly, it depicts exactly what I want. You're on this road, you don't know where you're going, the sun is setting, and it's beautiful. Keep moving. And every opportunity is an opportunity to discover who you are. Every opportunity is an opportunity to make a difference for another if we so choose to take it.
Mm, this is true, but you have to be open. You have to be listening, and it sounds like you had so much discernment. You were very in tune with your spirituality in such a way that God spoke to you through this book and spoke to you, and so that you can speak to others. And I love the empowerment that you shared with us today. Just for me personally, I'm just like, oh wow, you mean you can quit your job or you can get laid off and you can actually live and better than you lived before when you were a W-2 employee. That is just, it's phenomenal. And then you can have relationships and build relationship with people, and then they can support you in helping you start your own business. And I share with people in the Ecclesiastics 11 and 2, how many streams of income? Like seven or eight. That's what's in the Bible. And I was just like, hey, there is no limit but you limit yourself. And from what you've shared today, authentically authentic, in your journey, you are sharing with people how they can no longer be limited in their life, of who they are really at the core of who they're being.
Exactly. And, really quickly, Janelle, I say this: there are opportunities that pass our ears all the time. It's up to us to hear them as opportunities. And the moment that my friend talked about the jewelry company, the reason I went immediately when I got in my truck and I started making phone calls is because what was immediately there was all the reasons I shouldn't start this jewelry company. It was like, you don't know nothing about jewelry. You haven't worked in that before. You know something about insurance. You don't have time for that. You need to heal from this surgery. You need, like, all of these things downloaded into me. And I was like, no, I'm going to speak into a listening that can hold this space for me until I can hold the space for myself.
Mm.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's why and it was specific. I was specifically intentional about the people that I called, right? Like people that could listen from nothing and say, okay, if that's what you choose to do, okay. Um, and
People who are non-judgmental. Yes.
Yeah, or they don't put their stuff on it. Well, what do you know about that? All the questions and stuff, right?
Yes.
All of their cynicisms and resignation about life. I called people that could listen it and take it and say, okay, cool. What do you want to call it? They began to inquire. And I went home and got a fresh notebook, right? That's one of the things that I do. I get a fresh notebook, empty, and I just started writing down all of my thoughts, whatever came to me. And then I started polling friends and I was like, well, what do you think I should do? And what do you think it should look like? And I started writing down their ideas. But it was just like it lived in the world of possibility. And the same thing when I went to India. I was in India for 3 weeks in December.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine was like, Jamal, I want you to, look at textiles while you're there because I was setting up jewelry manufacturing in India. And so she's like, I want you to look at textiles. So I have a textile company coming too. That independent of what she was creating, another opportunity manifested itself because I was willing to hear it as an opportunity. So there's some textiles coming and they're going to be beautiful coming right out of India in the city of Kashmir.
Ooh.
So
So that's sexy. Oh wow! So that's you've got three down, and you've got five to go to get your eight streams. Okay. Oh wow. So I know, I said in the beginning, I said, Jamal, I know we've met, we know each other, but we don't know each other. And I tell you, this has been a great conversation to get to know you, to get to learn more about you, to be empowered and to see that you are a very courageous person. I knew you were a courageous person. But at the end of the day, it's just like all of these like ideas and the yeses that you say to yourself, the power of yes, you said, the power of forgiveness you shared, and just the power of just being authentic and authentically authentic.
yes, I just heard something in addition to what you said. So in a yes, it allows God to be good to you.
Yes.
Yes allows God to be good to you. The moment we say no, then God says, oh, I got to figure out another way to be good to him. Right. So just look at where you can start becoming a yes. I'm not saying be a yes to everything and everyone, but
Hmm.
at least pause and consider.
Okay. Well, Philip, I had to look it up because I don't want to, quote misquote the Bible. But my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Jesus Christ. That's the Philippians 4 and 9. So that's what came to my spirit when you say what to be that God, when you give yourself a yes, that God opens up
Yeah.
to
And like
you
I said, what's missing from that scripture is if you'll let me,
if you let me.
if you'll let me.
Well, it's in his word that he shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory. So that's what's if we allow him to do that, if we allow him to be that for us in what we so choose, so desire, so that we can God grant us the desires of our heart. And
Exactly.
that's what he's promised us. So that's amazing. That's wonderful. I know we're closing out here, and it's been a great conversation. You definitely want to pick up. I'm getting. I'm. His book is on order. We can get your book from directly from your website,
Yes.
myauthenticbook.com.
Or you can go directly to Amazon,
It's on
um,
Amazon.
and get it on Amazon. Just either search my name, Jamaal Wesley, or Authentically Authentic, and it'll pop right up and it'll come right to you in 2 to 3 days.
Very great. And so, how do we reach you and knowing like the next events that you're having, your book signings, and to keep up with you? And I know that person, wants to get some jewelry, and so I see your IG is my authentic book.
Yes. So the way to keep up with the book and book signings and events is through Instagram, or you can sign up on the website for our mailing list. And for anything jewelry through the website, onelovejewelry.com. Our emails are there, phone is there, whatever you need, we're there. And right now with the jewelry, we're working on our first line that will be coming out in the next month or so. So we're busy with that. Or we can do some custom stuff, which we love to do. So
For all the lovers out there in the world. I love it. One love jewelry. So thank you so much, Jamal. It's been a pleasure have you speak with us this evening, and I've been blessed, truly blessed, by what you've shared, and to get to learn know you more and more. And so this will definitely not be our only conversation, because I know that there's layers and layers, and I'm going to definitely read your book and find out all those deep secrets that you just don't share on a regular normal basis, a normal conversation with people. But as you have expressed to us today, I love to end the show and saying, be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is in you. And Jamal, you have definitely shared about the greatness that's in you, and you now are sharing it with the world through Authentically Authentic in sharing your journey. So thank you so much.
thank
And
you for having me.
you're welcome. And thank you so much for joining us tonight on Power Fridays Live. We're here each and every Friday night at 7 p.m. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and we'll see you next week at 7 p.m. for another exciting conversation with the entrepreneur of the evening. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.